I think we're reaching the point where entire movies could be made with CGI and most of us would never know the difference. Who needs expensive actors and physical sets when you can just computer generate everything, right? And while that may sound crazy right now, just look at today's video all about some of the craziest hidden examples of CGI in some of your favorite movies. Prepare yourself for some fake tears, body doubles, and gummy bears. Let's get started. Jurassic Park was praised for its commitment to inventing a time machine and bringing back dinos. Wait, that's not what happened? Wild! But seriously, Spielberg wanted a lot of practical effects in the movie and implemented them whenever he could. But did you catch this sneaky bit of CGI? Near the end, when the raptors attack the vents our heroes are in, Lex almost falls through right into the jaws of a hungry raptor. But did you know that wasn't the actress who played Lex? It was a stunt double, and in post-production, they simply transposed the actress's face to the stunt woman's body. And all in all, for 1993, it looks great, doesn't it? CGI in superhero movies is often insane, but necessary. How boring would the MCU movies be if there weren't any special effects, right? But an interesting thing happened in Iron Man 3. Robert Downey Jr. broke his foot while filming, and that forced production to use some sneaky CGI. The final scene, with Tony walking around the ruins of his house, is a poignant ending for his character arc. But technically, it's not RDJ. It's a body double that production then transposed RDJ's face on. You know, much like they did with skinny Steve Rogers. Spider-Man 2 still stands as one of the greatest superhero sequels ever, and a lot of that is because of Alfred Molina's winning performance as the tragic Doc Ock. Well, we know how the story ends. Doc Ock almost destroys New York, Spider-Man talks to him, and then Doc Ock realizes the error in his ways and fights back, ending his life with a dramatic sacrifice. Pretty sad, right? Well, did you know you were crying over a CGI version of Alfred Molina? Because that whole shot with Doc Ock's body slowly sinking down to the depths of the ocean was completely CGI. Wow, for the longest time, I always thought that was somewhat a practical effect. E.T. is a classic family film packed with Reese's Pieces, glowing fingers, and cops wielding guns at kids. This is an example of a movie that went back and altered things after it was already released. Originally, in the iconic moment where Elliot, E.T. and his friends take to the skies on their bikes, they're surrounded by cops. In the OG movie, the cops have their guns drawn, which after a bit of time, people realized was a bit excessive. Yeah, they're transporting an alien, but they're still kids. Later edits of the movie fixed this by using CGI to replace the guns with walkie-talkies instead. Brokeback Mountain has a reputation of being the film that should have won the Oscar for Best Picture, but was completely snubbed, and a much less deserving film was chosen. And if you've seen the movie, you know why it gets so much praise. On top of amazing performances by Jake Gyllenhaal and the late, great Heath Ledger, the film boasts a sweeping, beautiful landscape that makes you want to go camping. But in actuality, even this beauty is all computer-generated. A lot of the visuals for the backgrounds were CGI'd in post-production, so those looking for camping locations, much like this movie, should probably learn some Photoshop or something. John Wick's mission of revenge, where he's now killed about 15% of the population, all started when some punks killed his dog. It was very clear at that point that the only rule in this universe is that you don't mess with John Wick's dog. But there's a funny story about the dog involving CGI. In an early scene, the dog does his business on John's lawn, and turns out that was a $5,000 bathroom break. As the commentary states, they weren't allowed to give the dog laxatives, so they had to CGI its droppings, which wasn't that cheap, surprisingly. Just think, someone's job was to make CGI dog poop. If you listen to people on the internet, which you should never do unless it's one of our videos, you'll find the ending of The Departed is controversial. Not because of all the death, no, but because of the rat that crawls across the scene in the final shot.
The rat symbolizes obviousness.
Some people took issue that this was too on the nose, and there was even a campaign to digitally remove the rat from the movie. But did you know that the rat is all CGI? I guess hiring a rat trainer wasn't in the budget. I heard those guys are expensive. Every few years, there's a movie that comes out that is a must-see movie theater experience. Recently, that was 1917, Sam Mendes' harrowing World War I film that had the special gimmick of looking like it was all taking place in one shot. The movie is a technical marvel and just a beauty to look at. But to bring to life such a massive undertaking, it's understandable that a lot of CGI had to be used. Exterior landscapes had to be digitally added in, CGI body doubles had to be used, crazy shots had to be transposed on one another, etc. Next time you watch it, try to find all the CGI bits. Tim Burton and Johnny Depp have made an entire career collaborating on weird and off-the-wall projects. Their last pairing was the 2012 film Dark Shadows, a film that came and went without much fanfare. The film is based on a TV show and sees Johnny Depp play a vampire named Barnabas Collins. And of course, things get weird. But one small detail that may have gone unnoticed is that Barnabas never blinks in the movie. Why would he need to, after all? As it turns out, all of Johnny Depp's blinks in the film were CGI'd out to give him more of a vampire feel. That's pretty cool. There was a lot of buzz around the 2012 musical Les Miserables. To gain a sense of authenticism, director Tom Hooper let his actors sing live on set rather than re-record their songs later in post-production. This had its pros and cons, but that's discussion for a different Russell Crowe-centric video.
Vengeance was his and he gave me back my life.
But in order to pull this feat off, some CGI trickery had to be implemented. All the actors needed to be wearing earpieces and microphones in order to stay in tune and hear the music, which means all of those were edited out with CGI at a later date. Black Swan is a masterful portrayal of obsession, paranoia, and slightly larger hands. Let me explain that last one. There's a lot of really impressive CGI in Black Swan as Natalie Portman's character descends into madness. But the cleverest, subtle example has got to be with Portman's hands. In one very quick shot, Portman examines her hands, and if you look closely enough, you'll see that they're slightly more elongated and slender. Not so much where it's super noticeable, but enough to think, that's weird. Of course, there are big moments of CGI here and there, but it's the little moments like this that really make this movie impressive. David Fincher is the master of CGI. It's true. He doesn't do big-budget sci-fi films or work on superhero movies, but still his projects are some of the most technically astounding movies in Hollywood. He loves to recreate entire environments using CGI, and he's always been fond of this technique. Take one of his most beloved films, Fight Club. There's a lot of pure CGI sequences in the movie, like the sequence of the narrator's apartment suddenly catching fire. It's a testament to how particular he wants things to look, and as you'll see later, there's no detail too small that Fincher won't use CGI on. Gladiator is probably one of your dad's favorite movies. Tragedy struck the set of the award-winning film when actor Oliver Reed passed away while filming. To work around this, the production used CGI to recreate Reed's face and performance in order to finish his scenes. It's something that's more commonplace today, but 20 years ago, that was truly surprising. If you were on the phone saying goodbye to Leonardo DiCaprio for the last time, would you cry? I know I would. Blood Diamond ends with a tearful goodbye between Leo and Jennifer Connelly. Well, sorta tearful. Jennifer Connelly is a fantastic actress, but she could just not produce the emotion necessary at the end of the movie. In an infamous example of secret CGI, a single tear was added to Connelly's face during their last exchange. But one question, why does it fall in like the middle of the eye? Single tears don't do that, right? Okay, I mentioned before how David Fincher likes to recreate whole environments with CGI, but that's not all. Fincher will use CGI for the tiniest of details in order to get the exact shot he likes. One of the most infamous examples of this is Gone Girl, which includes a scene of Tyler Perry bouncing gummy bears off Ben Affleck's head. Because he wanted the gummy bears to hit a certain spot and fall a very specific way, they were actually all CGI'd, which must have made for a weird scene to shoot. Again, no details too small for Fincher, and it shows what CGI is truly capable of when it comes to crafting a scene. I'm also now being told that Gary Sinise didn't actually lose his legs while filming Forrest Gump. Yeah, right, sure. Next you're gonna tell me that Tom Hanks didn't actually meet all those presidents plus John Lennon. CGI couldn't have been that good then, right?